Would you want the UK directly bombing Iran?
What Royal Navy have we got? It took us 3 weeks and 1 day to get a single naval vessel to the RAF base in it.
But would you want to be, if you were Prime Minister?
No, I wouldn't. Not directly involved. I would have supported the Americans from the very start. And I tell you why. Because without America, we are literally defenceless.
So you would just agree to whatever the US want?
We're now in the worst of all worlds, right? We said no, you can't use the bases, and despite the fact we said that, the Iranians still fired rockets at British sovereign territory, and then we U-turned.
Was Donald Trump wrong to go to war with Iran and drive up energy prices for everyone?
Well, hang on a sec. Energy prices we've driven up in this country without the Iran war. Was it right for America and Israel to try and stop Iran becoming a nuclear...
What is up, everybody? Harry here. This is a Channel 4 interview with Nigel Farage, and it's a good one. The presenter pulls out actual Reform UK leaflets from last year's local elections. One's promising to cut your taxes and asks him to square that with council tax rises now happening under Reform-led councils. Farage's defence shifts a few times. First, that the leaflets were mixing national and local messaging. Then, that Reform's increases are still lower than other parties. The interview also pivots into his position on the US-Iran conflict, which gets a similarly close look. Get subscribed if you want breakdowns that hold up the receipts. Let's get into it.
Let's be clear, I campaigned up and down the country in the run-up to May the 1st last year. Never once did I say we could cut council tax because the levels of debts meant that would be impossible. What you're talking about is a leaflet with national policies on one side and local policies on the other. And the national policies were stop the boats, lower taxes, etc. We never promised. And actually, do you know what? 10 months in to being majority control of 10 councils, I am proud of the fact that we've made hundreds of millions of pounds of savings and that our council tax rises are lower than everybody else's.
I worried that you might misremember this, so I actually dug out some of those leaflets from last year. So here's one of yours, your big smiling face there. Cut your taxes.
Yes, with stop the boats and scrap net zero. They are national party policies. They are not specific to
Okay,
local
here's
council.
another one. This one from Lancashire. It's you're not smiling there, it's serious face.
Good Lord.
Reform UK stands for real change, putting local people first. We fight for lower council tax.
Yeah. And we've given it. We've given it. We've given lower council taxes than everybody else.
You've raised it.
Sunderland is just over the road where we've increased council tax by less than the rate of inflation. Look, you can split hairs on this if you want to.
I'm not splitting hairs on it. This one's from Kent.
Yep.
Right at the top there. You can change the way Kent County Council spends your money.
Yes.
Cut your taxes, big smiley face.
Yeah, along with freeze. Look, there are confusions in all local elections between national and local issues, and I get that. But
can you see how some people might look at this?
No, any journalists that are looking back at things and trying to find an argument.
Really, you can't think that there is some sympathy for people who thought this local leaflet with Kent right at the top and cut your taxes.
If I was living over the road here in Sunderland, I'd be very pleased at a 1.99% rise in council tax.
All councils can do is, the only tax they can lower is council tax.
And we've lowered
it up.
And we haven't increased it, in that case, even to the level of inflation. You know what? We've saved hundreds of millions of pounds. We've proved to be able to run the councils. There have been some bumps in the road, of course, but we've managed to show we can control the budgets.
Your argument here is now that you are raising council taxes by less than the Conservatives and Labour, but you're still raising them, aren't you?
We've got to. We're inheriting huge debts in these councils. And by the way, there's no magic wand in local government. I've never ever, over-promised and under-delivered. We know the pressures of adult social care, SEND provision for kids. None of this is easy. I get that, but I certainly stand by. I never last year or this year have over-promised.
In Worcestershire, you are raising the council tax by 9%.
We are not in control in Worcestershire. We are minority leaders in Worcestershire in an impossible position. Worcestershire is on the edge of being declared bankrupt. It's a very difficult situation. And by the way, that's not our cause.
You've said with Worcestershire, I have to say we took minority control of a virtually bankrupt council. I wish we hadn't bothered.
Well,
you want to be the Prime Minister.
You know what? They're very brave. They're very brave to do it.
But I don't know if you've spotted the UK finances. They're not going great. You want to be Prime Minister.
There's a complete difference here. If you win an election, you win an election.
Can you be bothered then?
We didn't quite win this election. We could have let those that had dragged us into this mess in Worcestershire continue with it or take it on.
Part of the problem with council finances is the same problem that everyone's having. It's cost of living, which has been contributed to by the US-Iran war. Can I just check what your position is on that war? Because it seems to have changed.
Never altered. Never altered. We should not have denied the Americans' usage of Diego Garcia and RAF Fairford. I was clear about that at the beginning.
Okay.
We should support efforts to clear the Straits of Hormuz with what equipment we've got.
Right at the start you said the gloves need to come off and the UK should do all we can to support the operation. I made that perfectly clear. So yes or no?
Yes, we should have supported the operation.
Would you want the UK directly bombing Iran?
What Royal Navy have we got? It took us 3 weeks and 1 day to get a single naval vessel to the RAF base in it.
But would you want to be? If you were Prime Minister,
no, I wouldn't. Not directly involved. I would have supported the Americans from the very start. And I tell you why. Because without America, we are literally defenceless.
So you would just agree to whatever the US want?
We're now in the worst of all worlds, right? We said no, you can't use the bases, and despite the fact we said that, the Iranians still fired rockets at British sovereign territory, and then we U-turned.
Was Donald Trump wrong to go to war with Iran and drive up energy prices for everyone?
Well, hang on a sec. Energy prices we've driven up in this country without the Iran war. Was it right for America and Israel to try and stop Iran becoming a nuclear weapons country? I think it was.
And would you have backed them up?
I would not have hindered them, and what we did was to hinder them from day one. That was a big mistake.
But direct bombing by
No,
the UK?
We have no contribution of any significant size to make. That is how weak we are now with our armed forces. So even if we wanted to do it, there's not much to add.
Nigel Farage, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Watch the exact sequence of leaflets the interviewer produces, because it's the strongest piece of evidence in the whole exchange, and it's worth being precise about what it actually shows. Farage's first defense is that the cut your taxes messaging was national policy printed alongside local material, distinct from local promises. The interviewer then produces a second leaflet, specific to Lancashire, that says explicitly, "We fight for lower council." Text language tied directly to the local pledge, not a national slogan bleeding onto a local page. That's a meaningful distinction worth holding on to. The first leaflet is genuinely ambiguous in the way Farage describes, but the second one isn't. And conflating the two lets a weaker defense cover a claim it doesn't actually apply to. Farage's fallback position, that council tax rises under reform-led councils are lower than rises under Labour or Conservative-led councils elsewhere, is a real, checkable comparative claim rather than an empty deflection, and deserves evaluation on those terms, if accurate. "We raised it less than others would have" is a genuinely different claim from "we cut it." And Farage is fair to draw that distinction, even if it sits awkwardly next to leaflets promising something closer to the latter. The interviewer's pushback that raising taxes is still raising taxes, whatever the comparison is, also fair because a specific written promise is being measured against what actually happened, not a hypothetical worse outcome under a different party. The Worcestershire exchange is worth separating out because it's a different kind of claim. Farage argues reform inherited the council on the edge of bankruptcy and didn't cause the underlying financial position. A defensible point regardless of party. Incoming administrations genuinely do inherit prior decisions they didn't make. Whether that fully explains a 9% rise or reflects choices made after reform took control isn't resolved either way here, and would need a closer look at that council's budget to settle. The Iran war section shows a real shift worth noting, precisely rather than dismissing as pure inconsistency. Farage's stated position that Britain should have supported the US and Israeli effort to prevent Iran acquiring nuclear weapons while opposing direct UK military involvement given current defence capacity is actually a coherent, if hawkish, stance that holds together internally, even if it changed in emphasis from an earlier, more forceful framing about gloves coming off. Reasonable people disagree sharply on the merits of that underlying position, both on the wisdom of the strikes and the UK's proper role in supporting them. And this exchange surfaces a real evolution in tone without fully establishing that the substance contradicted itself. Where the closing commentary goes further than the interview supports is the broad claim that right-wing populism is definitionally hollow, and the parallel claim that the BBC systematically fails to hold Farage accountable through false ballots. Both are real, widely held positions in British media criticism, but they're arguments about an entire political movement and an entire broadcaster's output. Not something one Channel 4 interview, however sharp, can establish on its own. What holds up cleanly from the interview itself, independent of that broader argument, is narrower. A specific written promise on a specific local leaflet and a specific policy outcome that doesn't match it. That gap is the part worth remembering, regardless of which party or political tradition makes a promise like it, because the same test, pull up what was actually printed and promised, then compare it to what actually happened, works exactly the same way whoever is being asked to answer for it. If breakdowns like this are useful to you, get subscribed to Harry Unfiltered, and I'll keep checking the receipts properly, one interview at a time.